Today, I'm going to be building some very simple, very cheap, very easy, and very sturdy tree armatures out of wire. Alright, so to get this started, I'm taking probably about 9 or 10 strands of wire, probably about 2 feet in length to begin with, and these wires are probably about 1 millimeter in diameter, and that is chose these wires, the thickness, not because they'd make the best tree, but because they'll keep the tree simple. The branches, when they get down to an individual strand of wire, will be perfectly strong enough. They won't bend on their own. And again, you don't need too many wires to create the thickness of a tree that you want. So again, this is just to create a simple tree armature. This is not to make some sort of diorama quality tree. This is just to crank out some armatures. They're really easy, they're cheap, they're kind of fun to make, frankly. There's an activity that I enjoyed doing while I turned on a battle report in the background and just had fun experimenting with making trees. So what I did is I took the strands, bent them in half, and then used the handle of a hobby knife after I'd taken the blade out, because I didn't need to cut myself on the blade as I was using it, because the fiddling with the wires is perfectly capable of scratching up on its own. So I bent them around the body of the hobby knife, twisted them around probably about 2 inches or so to create the trunk of the tree, and then start using a pair of pliers to twist the wires a little bit more firmly once they start branching out. And what I did is I generally, as I was twisting it, I'd find that wires would sort of splay out on their own. They'd separate out sort of here and there on their own, and I generally kind of just let that happen. I felt like that was kind of an easy way to make a tree look more natural, as if it was occurring randomly. To me, it was occurring randomly in nature. So I felt like that was an adequate way of figuring out where branches should go, is just letting it happen on its own. Otherwise, if I'd get an inch or two through a branch, I'd divide the wires in half and separate it that way. So I just use the pliers to wrap the wires around themselves to keep them nice and tight to make the branches, and then let the branches get out into the individual strands, because again, the goal here is not ultra detail. For diorama quality trees, the goal is to build some trees for the tabletop that are cheap and easy and will look decent once you cover them in whatever flocking method you're planning on using. So I'll speed the video up here so you can watch the whole process for this one. And again, it's frankly, as I sat down to do this, it's a lot simpler, a lot easier than I had anticipated. Some videos, when you're watching videos of people making trees for model trains or dioramas or whatever, it can be a little intimidating because of all the detail, the really thin wires they're using, and they always look incredible afterwards. But when that's not your goal, it really can be fun and easy, and it's definitely worth giving a shot if you're at all interested or at all driven to make some trees for your tabletop without wanting to buy them on your own. So I'll speed this video up a little bit so you can watch the rest of the armature being wrapped up, and we'll talk about the next step when we get there. And as you can see, once the branches get out on their own, I tend to cut them off immediately, leave an inch or two in length, just a single wire. I'm really doing that more for the camera because I don't want the longer wires bumping the camera as I'm turning the armature around. You don't need to cut those off immediately. You can wait till the end and make sure that it all looks adequate to you before you start trimming off the trees. But doing them like I was doing really didn't have any negative effects in the end. It still looked perfectly good. Alright, and then once you get the branches figured out the way you want them, you get them all cut to length so they're not spinning around and poking you in the face. I start working on the roots. So I take the little area that's been folded in half initially, start bending the loops out away from each other, and then cutting them in half to create the roots, and then bending each individual root out to sort of spread it up. Eventually you'll get to the point where it can stand up on its own. And then I start cutting the roots decently short. The plan with these is to base them individually so that if I want one individual tree here or one there, I can do that. And then I also want to keep the bases small, which is why I'm cutting the roots shorter, as you'll see in a minute or so, so that if I do want to put the trees close together to create sort of a wooded area, I can do that as well. So you'll see once I get the roots all splayed out, I'll start cutting them shorter, and then using the table that I'm working at to bend them flat so the tree will stand up on its own. And once you get the tree standing up on its own, you can go ahead and finalize the position of the branches to make sure it's looking decent to you. And that's it. As far as this stage of the process goes, you can see these are super easy, super simple. It took about 20 cents worth of wire, if that even, to create a real easy tree armature. It took about 10 minutes to make. Just a decent little activity to if you're sitting at your desk watching a battle report or watching some other video or just absent-mindedly doing something else. You can crank out a bunch of these, and it's a great alternative to going out and buying a bunch of them if you're sort of a cheaper guy like I am, or you just enjoy crafting. So thanks for watching this video. In the next one, I'll be showing you how I filled the wire up and textured it to make it look a bit more like a tree trunk, so that when you paint it up, it looks decent and doesn't look like just a big bunch of cable standing on end. If you got anything out of this video, feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. This channel is not aimed at creating top-notch diorama quality, award-winning projects. This is aimed at inspiring you, showing you how easy it is to sit down and crank out a few items on your own so that you can play games in an immersive setting, and you can dress up your table and really get into the games just like the folks on your favorite battle report do. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you learned or saw how easy this was, and it made you realize that this really is a project that is worth trying out yourself. Thanks. See you next time.